My earliest gauge has always been the Stones, and I always wanted to end up in that band.
During rock and roll's wildest years, when cigarette smoke filled concert halls and whiskey flowed backstage, there was a guitarist who had very strong opinions about music. Ronnie Wood, the cool Rolling Stone with his friendly smile and amazing slide guitar skills, was more than just the life of every party. He was a man who secretly disliked several famous bands that everyone else loved. Ronnie Wood came from London and created unforgettable guitar solos on songs like Miss You and Start Me Up. People knew him for being easygoing and working well with others, but underneath that friendly surface, he had some very bitter feelings about certain musical acts. In 1976, he supposedly told a roadie, "Music should make you move your hips, not scratch your head. Some bands have forgotten the difference completely." Wood believed that rock music should be simple and make people feel good. He thought some bands were making music too complicated and losing the real spirit of rock and roll. These were the deeper battles in music during the 1970s, fights between keeping things real versus showing off, and the struggle between playing from the heart versus playing just to sound smart. Wood had serious problems with 6 different bands, and his conflicts with them showed what he thought rock music should really be about. From angry moments in recording studios to heated arguments in smoky London pubs, these feuds revealed Wood's true feelings about where rock music was heading. Pink Floyd and the philosophy problem. Pink Floyd was the first band on Wood's list of musical enemies. This might surprise many people because Pink Floyd was incredibly popular and respected. They were known for their space rock sound, elaborate concept albums, and mind-bending musical landscapes. But these were exactly the things that irritated Ronnie Wood during the early 1970s progressive rock era. Problems between Wood and Pink Floyd started in the late 1960s when both bands were coming up in London's underground music scene. However, they had completely different ideas about what rock music should be. A famous rock photographer named Mick Rock said that Wood once told his drinking friends at a Chelsea pub, "Roger and David think every album needs a philosophy degree to understand. They've forgotten that rock music is supposed to feel good, not give you homework assignments." What really bothered Wood wasn't just that Pink Floyd liked to experiment with new sounds. He was angry about their attitude toward simpler rock music. While Wood was working on his bluesy slide guitar style with his band The Faces, and later with the Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd was getting praise from critics for what Wood called soundtrack music for planetariums. He thought their long instrumental sections were boring, even though other people thought they were brilliant. Wood believed that rock and roll should grab people immediately and make them excited. He didn't like Pink Floyd's 20-minute guitar solos about walls and other deep topics. In 1974, he told Melody Maker magazine, without directly naming Pink Floyd, "Rock and roll should grab you by the throat, not put you to sleep with 30-minute guitar solos about walls." Everyone in the London music scene knew exactly which band he was talking about. The situation got worse in 1975 during a recording session at the famous Abbey Road studios. People who were there said Wood packed up his guitars and left when someone suggested they try Pink Floyd-style atmospheric effects. He supposedly agreed. To his sound engineer, "I came here to make music, not background noise for acid trips." In Wood's opinion, Pink Floyd had committed the worst possible sin in rock music. They were taking themselves too seriously and had forgotten how to rock. They were making music that was more about being intellectual than about making people dance and feel good. Genesis and the theater problem. Genesis came in at number 5 on Wood's list of least favorite bands. This feud showed the battle between putting on a show versus being authentic. Genesis was known for their theatrical performances, especially during the years when Peter Gabriel was their lead singer in the mid-1970s. They were famous for costume changes, elaborate stage productions, and Gabriel wearing strange masks while telling stories between songs. The conflict supposedly started after Genesis became famous for their concept performances. A music journalist named Nick Kent from NME magazine said that Wood told other musicians at a Soho recording session, "Peter thinks every gig needs fancy dress and puppet shows. Real performers don't need to hide behind Halloween masks to connect with their audience." These harsh comments apparently reached Genesis's management team within hours because London's music scene was very connected. What really annoyed Wood wasn't just their visual theatrics, but but how they approached live performances. Wood had built his reputation on raw energy and spontaneous guitar playing with his bandmates. Genesis, on the other hand, was becoming successful with what Wood called dinner theater rock. These were elaborate productions that Wood believed put spectacle before musical substance. Wood supposedly told a journalist at a 1976 London club show, "There's performing music and there's performing at music," clearly talking about Genesis without mentioning their name. People in the music industry immediately understood what he meant. The situation reportedly got worse at a backstage meet and greet, where witnesses said Wood refused to pose for photos with Peter Gabriel, muttering, "I don't do pictures with people in costumes unless it's Halloween." From Wood's point of view, Genesis had stopped being musicians and had become what he saw as overproduced theatrical nonsense. He believed that good performers didn't need costumes and elaborate stage shows to connect with their audience. The music should be enough. Yes, and the technical problem. Yes came in at number 4 on Wood's list, and this represented perhaps the most technical clash of all his musical feuds. Yes was known for their virtuosic progressive rock with complex compositions and incredible instrumental skill. They were famous for their mathematical approach to music and endless showcase solos that demonstrated each member's technical abilities. The problems with Yes allegedly developed in the early 1970s when the band was gaining recognition for their intricate song structures and virtuoso musicianship. Jeff Barton, an editor at Classic Rock magazine, said that Wood complained to session musicians at Olympic Studios about Rick Wakeman and Steve Howe, saying, "Music shouldn't be a bloody math exam. They spend 20 minutes showing off when they could just play a decent tune in 3. These harsh criticisms apparently spread throughout London's studio circuit very quickly. What drove Wood absolutely crazy wasn't just that Yes was technically skilled, but that they seemed obsessed with being complex just for the sake of being complex. While Wood was mastering the art of melodic simplicity and groove-based rhythms, Yes was building their reputation with what Wood reportedly called musical masturbation. These were elaborate arrangements that Wood believed sacrificed soul for sophistication. Wood allegedly told a BBC radio interviewer in 1974, "Music should move your body, not your calculator," obviously talking about Yes without mentioning them directly. Everyone in the industry understood exactly what he meant. The feud supposedly reached its peak at a charity concert rehearsal where witnesses claimed Wood stormed out during a Yes soundcheck, shouting to his roadie, "I can't watch these blokes turn rock music into a bloody science project for another second." In Wood's world, Yes had committed a cardinal sin. They had forgotten that great music should come from the heart, not from technical manuals. He believed that showing off musical skill was less important than making people feel something when they heard the music. Emerson, Lake, and Palmer, and the classical problem. Emerson, Lake, and Palmer, ELP, came in at number 3, representing a rivalry that divided rock music into camps of excess versus essence. ELP was a keyboard-driven supergroup known for their orchestral bombast and classical music pretensions. They became Wood's most despised example of everything he thought was wrong with 1970s progressive rock. The bad blood supposedly started in the mid-1970s, when ELP was dominating arenas with Keith Emerson's spinning keyboards and Carl Palmer's massive drum kits. Steve Clark, a writer for Sounds magazine, said that Wood vented to regular customers at his local Richmond pub, "Keith thinks every song needs a bloody symphony orchestra and a knife-throwing act. They've turned rock concerts into pompous variety shows for people who think they're too sophisticated for actual rock music." What made this feud particularly intense was that Wood and ELP had completely different visions of what rock music should be. While Wood championed stripped-down authenticity and bluesy groove, ELP was achieving massive success with what Wood reportedly called classical music vandalism. These were elaborate productions that Wood believed destroyed both rock's rawness and classical music's dignity. Wood supposedly told Record Mirror magazine in 1976, "Rock and roll was supposed to rebel against stuffy concert halls, not become them. Real music doesn't need a conductor and sheet music." The animosity allegedly reached its peak during a 1977 music festival, where witnesses claimed Wood refused to share the same backstage area as ELP, telling festival organizers, "I don't want to catch whatever disease makes musicians think they're bloody Beethoven." From Wood's perspective, ELP had transformed rock music into exactly what it should have been fighting against: pretentious, overproduced classical wannabe nonsense. He believed rock should be rebellious and raw, not trying to copy classical music. King Crimson and the Intellectual Problem. King Crimson came in at number 2, representing what might have been the most intellectually explosive revelation on Wood's list. This was surprising because King Crimson was known for pushing musical boundaries, just like Wood did in his own way. But they became the target of Wood's deepest artistic frustration and professional bewilderment. The tension supposedly began in the late 1960s when King Crimson exploded onto the music scene with Robert Fripp's cerebral guitar work and their dark experimental compositions. Chris Welch, a rock historian, said that Wood told close friends at a Richmond pub, "Fripp and his crew think making music should require a bloody university degree. They've confused being clever with being musical, and frankly, it's exhausting to watch." What truly irritated Wood was that King Crimson was getting critical acclaim for their approach to guitar work. While Wood had been perfecting his instinctive blues-based playing style, King Crimson was achieving legendary status with what Wood reportedly called mathematical music. These were compositions that Wood believed prioritized brain power over emotional connection. Wood allegedly told a music journalist in 1973, clearly talking about King Crimson's complex arrangements, "Some people think weird time signatures make them geniuses, but music is supposed to make you feel something, not solve puzzles." The rivalry reportedly became personal when both guitarists were compared in music magazines. Industry insiders claimed Wood became increasingly annoyed that Fripp was being praised as innovative, while Wood's straightforward approach was dismissed as simple. Wood supposedly told his bandmates, "He's trying to turn rock music into a bloody science experiment while the rest of us are just trying to make people dance." This showed Wood's fundamental belief that music should be about emotion and movement, not about showing how smart or technically skilled you could be. Jethro Tull and The Ultimate Betrayal. Jethro Tull took the top spot as the band that supposedly made Ronnie Wood angriest of all. This was described as the ultimate British rock betrayal that stunned the music world. Jethro Tull was known for their folk rock sound, and their lead singer Ian Anderson's flute playing. Wood saw them as representing everything wrong with rock music through what he considered ridiculous instrumentation, pompous medieval obsessions, and shameless manipulation of rock music's core identity. The feud's roots supposedly went back to the late 1960s, when both bands were competing for attention in Britain's exploding rock scene. Roy Hollingworth, a journalist from Melody Maker magazine, said that Wood told fellow London musicians, "Ian Anderson thinks bringing a bloody flute to a rock concert makes him innovative. Real rock instruments have strings and amplifiers, not holes you blow through like a school band reject." The breaking point reportedly came when Jethro Tull began achieving massive commercial success while maintaining their folk rock credibles. Even sources claimed Wood felt personally offended by their approach, allegedly telling people close to him, "They built their career on nursery rhyme melodies and Renaissance fair costumes because they can't write proper rock songs like everyone else." The animosity reached legendary proportions during the 1970s when both acts were touring extensively. Industry veterans claimed Wood became obsessed with discrediting Anderson's musical legitimacy. He supposedly said at a backstage party, "The difference between Jethro Tull and real rock bands is that we actually rock. They just prance around in tights playing medieval elevator music for hippies who think they're cultured." Wood's hatred for Jethro Tull represented his deepest beliefs about what rock music should be. He thought rock should be powerful, direct, and authentic. In his view, Jethro Tull was everything rock music shouldn't be: theatrical, folk-influenced, and more concerned with being different than with rocking hard. The deeper meaning. These 6 feuds revealed Ronnie Wood's core philosophy about rock music. He believed that rock and roll should be simple, direct, and emotional. It should make people want to dance and feel good, not think too hard or solve musical puzzles. He thought that many of the progressive rock bands of the 1970s had lost sight of what made rock music special in the first place. Wood represented a more traditional view of rock music that valued feeling over thinking, simplicity over complexity, and authenticity over showmanship. His conflicts with these 6 bands showed the larger battles that were happening in rock music during the 1970s, as some musicians tried to make rock more sophisticated and intellectual, while others wanted to keep it raw and emotional. Whether these feuds were as intense as described or whether some of the quotes were exaggerated, they represented real tensions in the rock music world. These were debates about what rock music should be and where it should go. Wood's position was clear: rock music should rock, and anything that got in the way of that fundamental purpose was missing the point. The legacy of these philosophical differences can still be seen in rock music today, with some artists focusing on technical skill and complex compositions, while others prioritize emotional connection and straightforward rock energy. Ronnie Wood's supposed feuds with these 6 bands captured one side of that eternal debate in rock music.